I'm Linda Deir, and this guy behind the scenes
on keyboards, over keyboard here, keyboard there, is Ray Hawley.
Put your face in there, Ray. Get your face up there.
Hi.
There he is.
Hi, everybody.
All right.
Hold on, I'm gonna get this.
All right. So
rolling on Facebook.
I'm going to start, Ray. Tonight, your spirit guides and I will be taking your questions about the major hangups in your life right now. To solve these hangups, we will take you back to the moment in time when it all started. I don't know when it started, but your spirit guides do. They were there when it happened. That's why we will consult with your guides to get the clarity that you have been missing all this time. Once your spirit guides identify the source of this hang-up, I will identify the chapter in my guided journey that relates to this. Using this journal, you will work through your healing process. While doing this, you will feel the connection to your spirit guides and angels. As you get clarity around what happened, what's been hanging you up, you will be able to see how it all affected other areas of your life. However, once you work through that one hang-up that has been bothering you, conquering the others will be easier. That's how my guided journey works. It takes 15 minutes a day to write in your journal about what entered your awareness that day. That's guidance speaking to you. It's always going on. You won't always see what it's showing you the moment you write it down, but you will. A day, week, month, or even years later. You will see the guidance in sequential order on paper, not a mass of confusion running your life. You will have the power over what has been controlling you. So that's what we're going to be working on today.
Well, that sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, and we did get some questions emailed to us to work on today. And we also invite, for the viewers, for those who are live with us tonight, to post your questions about what's been hanging you up in your life. What's really bothering you? Not trivial things, but what's really going on, all right? And your guides are going to speak to you directly, going to have a conversation about it, all right? We do these every Wednesday, you guys, so don't miss us, 6 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Facebook Live. So,
Linda Deir, author.
Yeah, Linda Deir, author. All right. So, Ray, did you get those questions?
Well, I picked out two that came in.
All right.
There was a lot of good ones.
Yeah. Again, don't be afraid to leave your questions in the comment area, and we will answer those. Okay. We will have you. We will let you speak to your guides about what that is. All right.
Okay. First question is from Suzanne. Dear Linda, I feel I was abused as a child. When I say abused, I don't mean beaten for doing bad things. I wasn't a bad kid. It was more like when I didn't do something the way my parents expected it to be done. This is when I would be reprimanded and left feeling ashamed. It seems that I have carried this shame with me into a series of failed relationships in my adult life. I will be 50 this year. I want to be a good person to my partner, but when I get reprimanded for something I didn't do right, I withdraw like I did as a child, and the relationship then suffers. I don't know what's wrong with me or if you can help. Suzanne.
All right. And like we always do, what we start out with, because your guides were with you when all that happened, in your lives, including Suzanne. And we're going to let Suzanne's guide guides, spirit guides, angels come through and speak directly to her about what happened at that time in her life, because they were there, right? And what she needs to do to heal this hurt, this hang up, all right? And Suzanne, your spirit guides and angels are here with us now. And by the way, Ray speaks out their messages. We can't both be speaking them out at the same time. So the guide said, Ray will speak out these messages, and that's how this works. And Suzanne, here they go.
Suzanne, we are here and see that this bothered you very much as a young child. However, when you got older, your parents stopped reprimanding you. They just said nothing. Although you could sense their displeasure with you, you never knew why. This was actually worse than knowing what you were being punished for. Something you may have been able to correct. Not knowing triggered certain insecurities you carried with you into your failed adult relationships. These insecurities caused you to shut down emotionally and clouded your perception of other people's true emotions. You became afraid of being intimate with someone whose emotions you couldn't judge as true or not. On the other hand, you didn't want to be alone either. So one reaction was to protect yourself and withdraw, leaving the relationship, which you did many, many times. Right while an opposite reaction made you stay too long because of the fear of being alone. We watched you get lost. We tried to reach you, but we couldn't as long as you continued to look out there for approval. This was something you learned as a child growing up. The only way you can resolve it is to go back to the time these reprimands first occurred. You must look at them objectively in order to see what happened, how they made you feel, what you know, what you now realize from analyzing them, and the actions that you will take to heal these insecurities. Most of all, you must remember to ask for our help.
What's that dinging going off, Ray?
I don't know.
Okay, is it your phone? Probably. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into, that was fascinating information. Again, I didn't know any of that. Ray didn't know any of that. Only your guides know that because they were with you at the time. They're with you right now. They've always been with you. So they know you better than anybody. They didn't get the amnesia when you came here. You did. All right? So I'm going to get into my guided journey, which is where she has a number of, Suzanne, you have a number of areas in part 2, taking the journey. There's 18 chapters in part 2, all right? And I'm going to, I was writing them down as Ray was reading this off. And the first one that you need to really work on is chapter 1. Okay, chapter 1. The old forget how to keep the secrets. The middle age protect the secrets. The young feel the shame of the secrets. That's what happened to you, Suzanne. Hint, this pressure triggered your first fear. So fear, chapter 1 of part 2, is the first one you need to work on. You need to go in and start working on that. Okay, the next one is chapter 12. Chapter 12 is compromise. Compromise, chapter 12. A quiet desperation took over. You took everything personally. We watched you get lost. There it is, okay? So that's why the guides mentioned that part where they tried to reach you, but you were looking for your answers out there instead of right here. All right, you didn't take that pause. You didn't stop the panic. You didn't get quiet with the situation so your guides could reach you. All right, but they're reaching you now, aren't they? So that's chapter 12. And then chapter 14. Chapter 14 is the search begins, spurred from a deep emptiness. This is when you started loving yourself, when what you did wasn't dependent on what others may have said or thought about you. That was a big one for you, and still is, all right? It's not that you didn't care. It's that you had learned to care about yourself, independent of others needing to do that for you. So you quit worrying about the relationship carrying you and making up for those insecurities and insufficiencies within yourself. This is where you're going to work it out, where you don't come with a neediness, you don't come with a liability into your relationships going forward. This is where you carry your own load. You come into the relationship not damaged, okay? You come in capable of that relationship. You come in whole and able to love, truly love that other person and yourself in that relationship. You will draw to you something very different than you've ever drawn to you before. Once you take and you work through chapter 14, okay? And just so you guys can see this is where you do the writing. There's the search begins. You do the writing, you write it down. You talk about how it felt. You talk about what you realized after you wrote it down and how it felt. And then you talk about the action you intend to take. This keeps you real with yourself. This reminds you of who you are. You can't help but figure this out when you take this journey, okay? Ray, what do we have?
Well, I thought it was interesting. The guide said something to Suzanne about when she got into these relationships, she was unable to judge their emotions, whether their emotions were true or not.
Right.
It ties back to when I think her parents stopped talking to her. As long as her parents reprimanded her verbally,
Yeah.
she knew what she did that was wrong.
She knew what she did was wrong.
Right, but pretty soon she said they stopped talking to her. In her email, she said, yeah, they withdrew. Her parents just stopped talking to her.
Yeah, because she didn't get it.
They were just displeased. They looked displeased. She could tell they weren't happy with her.
It's like, Suzanne, it's like you didn't get it. It's like they gave up on trying to see if you were going to get it or not. All right. And I want you to know that what they wanted you to get was they were very judgmental and critical of you. So you didn't get it, and that may have been the good news. All right. I know in my life, when I wrote my true life story, they asked me that all the time, going through school, my family, people in business. You don't get it, Linda. It's a good thing I didn't get it. So you didn't need to worry about what they thought about you. The problem happened when you took it personally and you thought something was wrong with you. In fact, how did she end her email to me?
I don't know what's wrong with me.
You know, you didn't get it, and there's nothing wrong with you, all right? So quit trying to find out what was wrong with you, because there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing you need to fix except the part where you took it personally, because that was just their opinion. They had this idea about you where you were supposed to be a certain way, but they never noticed who you were, did they?
Right.
They missed that. They wanted you to conform to their way. You were their kid, and be a certain way, so they could be proud of you, you know, whatever that means. All right. So really, it's not about that. And taking it personally is what threw you right off track, right to begin with.
I can see exactly how later in life, if you were in a relationship,
how it would mess it up,
and they wouldn't tell you what they're angry about, or
even what they're just thinking. You know, that has really, it's not.
You can't read their emotions.
Right.
If they don't talk, if they don't want to work things out or talk to you, how do you know how they feel? You don't. What
happened is you didn't. The minute you took that personally, you stopped trusting yourself.
Right.
And you haven't been able to trust yourself ever since. So that's the crux of the problem. All right. So taking it personally, I mentioned chapter 1, chapter 12, and chapter 14. You really need to look at that, all right?
Because it all started when her parents stopped talking to her.
That is just, it doesn't matter. It's certainly not time to take it personally now, okay?
No.
It's time to look this thing in the eye. And I want you to know that with my guided journey, you know, this is the companion journal to my flagship book, Guided. After people read Guided, listened to Guided, they wanted to know, how do I make this connection to my own spirit guides and angels? I know I can do it now. That's how this came about, a work in progress for over a year in beta test, okay, before this was published. So this was not just how I made the connection to my own guides and how I know it works for you, but it was through working with a number of people that were learning to do this, that this was fleshed out. So again, get this, My Guided Journey on Amazon, get it and start working through it, Suzanne, and then come back and, you know, try to be, if you can, join us live. That's really cool. All right. But if you can't, just send your questions to Linda at lindadeir.com. That's D as in David, E before I, EIR.com. And send me your questions so I have them for next Wednesday. All right?
Right.
What else do we have?
Okay, we have another question. This one also happens to be a relationship question, but it's a different little twist.
All right.
It's from Tiffany. Tiffany says, Dear Linda, my problem is that I keep picking the wrong guys in my relationships.
I did that too.
That's because your picker was broken.
I know.
Not only are they wrong, so she picks the wrong guy. Not only are they wrong, but the new one turns out to be just like the last one, and the one before that, and the one before that.
I did that.
How did I get stuck in this pattern, and what can I do to break it? I can't stand another mistake. Tiffany.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Okay, this ought to be get right into relationships. I mean, it's really big. Relationships and money.
Right. And sometimes they're tied together.
Oh, that's
the worst.
Now that could be heavenly, all right?
Yeah.
Or that could be horrible.
Yeah. Okay, so
we're gonna.
She has a pattern problem.
Yeah. What we're gonna do is we're going to always, when you want to connect with your guides, you guys make the connection. Breathe. Okay. Breathe with me, right? And we're going to channel your guides, your spirit guides and angels, and loosen up your upper shoulders. You know, release the stress in your back and your neck, right in here. Okay. And breathe like you're reaching for that yawn breath. That yawn breath always releases the tension. Okay, I'm going to go for that one. Okay. There. It feels good when you do that.
Now you got me yawning.
It is contagious. Okay.
Okay.
Tiffany, your spirit guides and angels are here with us now. And they're going to tell you what you're doing wrong.
This pattern.
They're with you all the time, so they know. And they've been trying to reach you, Tiffany, but you've been so preoccupied with these distractions that you haven't been quiet long enough to hear them, all right? Sense them, feel them. All right, here they go.
Hello, Tiffany. You are stuck in this serial relationship pattern because you made yourself a target long ago as a person who allows others to judge you and manipulate you. Now you attract relationships where the other person sees they can manipulate you and take advantage of you. It's actually what you think you deserve, as shocking as that sounds. What you think you deserve started in your childhood. It presented itself in several ways. What type of relationship example did your parents show you? Which one dominated the other, and how did they do that? Which one judged you more than the other and made you feel less significant? What was it that they did or said that you took personally, and it became part of how you saw yourself growing up? These judgments from family and friends throughout your school years affected who you dated. Other people's judgment of you caused you to seek out only what you thought you deserved or what you had gotten used to. Subconsciously, you took this "what I think I deserve" pattern into your adult dating life, where you compromised from the start of the relationships. you knew something was wrong, and early on into them, you thought maybe you could fix the other person. So you stayed in it far too long, afraid of having to start over again. In order to break this pattern, you must work on identifying and healing the things people made you falsely believe about yourself, starting as a child. It can be painful, but you must write down everything that people said to you that you allowed to form this new vision of yourself that you took on. You see, you were perfect when you came here into this life. Nothing needed to change. You let their opinions cause you to seek out compromised relationships. Your biggest fear being that you never felt that anyone could love you for who you really are.
Okay, so I have a question before we move on from this. I'm going to ask your guides a question here. What was one of the things that happened when she was a young child that you see, your spirit guides and angels saw, that she can relate to, that she's going to connect with? What's one of the things that happened that caused this?
You allowed your friends in junior high and high school to influence you about who you should date.
Yeah, well, at that point, you were far enough along where you were vulnerable to that. You were looking for validation outside of yourself, is what that was. And I would say the chapter that I'm led to, let me go to the front here, for you to work on right now, all right? Not that you shouldn't work on all these chapters, because you guys should, but the one that screams out the pages for you, Tiffany, is compromise. That's going to be chapter 12. By the way, that's a big one. That shows up for a lot of people, all right? And the one just before it is called separation. This is when you really started to feel a deep loneliness. And that happened when you were in school. That's why I'm going to say the separation. So I'm going to say 11, chapter 11 and 12. If you just start working on that right now, yeah, right now in my guided journey, that's going to start opening up a whole can of worms for you. It's going to wake you up. You know, I want you guys to know that on my website, lindadeir.com, when you get there, when you click on the blog, go to the blog page. My guided journey, we did a video on every chapter. There's 18 videos there, actually 19, but one for every chapter in part 2, Taking the Journey. Go there and watch the video associated with each, whatever chapter you're working on, before you start writing in your journal about what you think happened. Because it's not so much about what happened, but how you approach it, okay? If you approach it with a victim mentality, you're going to miss it. You're not going to connect with this at all. You've got to look at it like this. You've got to see it out there. You can't be taking it personally. You can't be coming from some old emotion to express what that was, because That's distorted. That's fogged over. Okay, you got to get in there and look at what happened, not what you feel happened emotionally. All right. So watch the video before you work in any one of these chapters, because it will get you in the right mindset to take the journey. All right. Do we have any questions?
Not yet. This is a serious recurring problem where people keep picking the same type of relationships.
I get it. I know.
And the guide said something about what she had gotten used to. She picked something again because she had gotten used to it. That's pretty sad.
Well, what happens is I was very sad, okay? I could relate to these dysfunctional people really well. I mean, I could handle it. When they flipped out or whatever they did, I was like, I was used to rolling with that. I was used to watching it go down and not being pulled into it. But it was kind of like in my energy field. That's what I grew up around, is that dysfunction. So I did the same thing. I mean, until we heal it, until we go back in and we go through the journey. We take that journal and we walk through that journey. Will we really heal it? All right. You won't see the difference in your outer world until you heal your inner world. All right. Nobody can heal it for you. If you keep doing it, it's like having a venereal disease. You keep giving it to someone else. All right. Because you didn't get it fixed or healed or whatever, I hate to make that analogy, but that does get your attention. You don't want to keep passing off this dysfunctional type of, pattern that you developed over the course of your lifetime, and bringing that into the relationship and poisoning it, with that. So
when people keep having the same type of relationships, they attract to them the same type of person, thinking that it's going to be different. And they're attracting the type of person, what did they say? They could sense that she could be manipulated or controlled.
Well, in my case, what I learned is these people were so out of control, they were emotionally unstable, the people I picked, that I was in control. I was the only one in control. So I kept picking them so I had the control, so they wouldn't mess up my life, okay? At least not too bad. I mean, they were a mess, but and I was messed up for picking it, right? But I felt like I had control. That's why I did it. Until I got okay with myself, and I no longer needed that armor, okay, of control, where these other people are all freaking out, and I'm, calm, cool, and collected, just like I always have been, because I learned not to take it personally, right?
That's the key right there. If you're taking things personally, then you're asking for a bad relationship.
You're asking for a bad everything.
A bad life.
Yeah, that's the first place. As soon as you come into this life as a new person, that little baby, you're the center of the universe as far as you're concerned. You've got every need met, and then when somebody says something to you like no or whatever, you're like shocked. Your center is thrown off because you are the center. So
you don't know what you did wrong.
Well, as soon as you feel that shock hit you, that's chapter 1, fear. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you take it personally. That's what happens when fear comes into your life. You took something personally. It couldn't exist if you didn't. Okay. So, and then what happens? You take it personally. You start to doubt yourself. Maybe I'm not okay. Maybe it is me. And then it turns into fear. If you don't deal with it in the doubt stage, fear gets a hold of you. And then you're like, oh my God.
You're afraid to stay in the relationship. You're afraid to leave the relationship. Yeah. But what else is interesting is this, what makes people think they can fix the other person? Is it because they don't think there's anything wrong with them and the other person needs fixing?
Heck yeah. Are you kidding? It's so much easier for the other person to do the work. I mean, and think that it's not me, you know. Of course, you know, even if it's not you, you played a part in it, all right? Just like I did. I picked those relationships. I played a part in it. I had a strategy that I wasn't even aware of, that all I needed is control. If these guys were, you know, all messed up and confused, as long as I wasn't, I had the power, right? That was my way of getting through life and getting, you know, picking these relationships redundantly that were inferior, I could have done better, you know. And I did do better.
You did? When was that?
Well, I talk about it in Guided.
Part 4, the part where you meet me and live happily ever after, that part?
He loves that. Ray,
That's
what do
my
we have
favorite
there?
part.
We
Let's
have
see.
some people that have
Yeah,
maybe some questions here.
People watching. Mona, Lori. Hi, Lori. Where have you been?
Lori's been a long time.
Veronica's here. Oh, no. Lori says so true. And Patricia Wolf, a new person. Hi, Patricia. Welcome.
Great. Do you guys have questions around? I don't know if you've been with us the whole time tonight,
We're
but
talking about dysfunctional relationships.
yeah, we're talking about where you have hang-ups, okay? It's not necessarily relationships, but wherever you feel hung up. I talk about this throughout the companion journal to My Guided Journey, that was published recently. I mean, since it was published in August of 2018, a work in progress for over a year before I published it, all right?
There's a couple hundred people who worked through this book in its original beta state, which was like 40 or 45 pages, and now it's almost 200.
And this is a journal. You write in this. This is where you do the work and you process what's been hanging you up, all right? And so what we're really talking about, what's hanging you up, okay? It's in here. It's in chapter 1 through 18 of part 2, Taking the Journey. It's one or more of those chapters that will get you out of that rut, all right? So what do we have? Did anybody?
No questions. Just
okay.
And the other thing is, Linda mentioned there's a video for each chapter. It's an hour-long video. Well, doesn't everybody want to sit there and watch a video in front of their computer? When you get the book, you also get a link where you can go download the MP3s.
For those videos.
Yeah, and you can just put them on your phone, listen to them in your car while you're walking the dog, whatever.
Right. So you still get what it is, because what happens with those videos before you take the journey is they get you in the right mindset. So you don't go about it the wrong way, all right? And then it'll work. But if you don't watch those videos first and align with that mindset that gets you in your power, when you start writing in the journal, you're going to miss it, you know. So
these things about you'll accept a relationship because that's all you think you deserve, that is really messed up from when you're a child.
That is right.
Right.
Yeah, it happened. I mean, I had horrible things happen to me from my family, and the only thing that saved me from it is having this connection to my guides throughout my life. And the one thing that I learned from their influence on me is to not take it personally. When I was 7 years old, I started journaling. I did it because I had this amazing relationship with these guides, and I had to make sense of what was going on in this world.
You had nobody you could talk to.
I could have never brought any of this up to any. In fact, you guys, I was 62 years old before I wrote and published my book and told my story, because it was so threatening throughout my life, including my own daughter. I mean, my own daughter migrated toward those negative family members, childhood family members I had, and just ate it up. You know, it's sad. I mean, how much uglier can it get than that? I moved away from them 30 years ago, actually. 30 years ago this year, I moved away from all of them. And my guides told me on my drive out to Arizona from California, I moved to Arizona, they said, you won't understand how important it is that you did this, that you got away from them, that you left California, and for years you won't understand it. But it was critical. critical to your growth, critical to your well-being, to get away from them.
Just look back at some of those people, they haven't changed one bit.
They've gotten worse.
They've gotten worse.
Yeah. So it's hard to believe that there's no compassion in people. They can be so rigid and determined to destroy another human being. That's my family. That's bad, you know? So anyway.
I think this getting what you deserve thing, I just had a flashback to Christmas time.
We've got questions.
Oh, we do?
Let's
Okay.
take a look.
All right. Been busy? Okay, Lori's been busy. Can other spirits besides spirits come through the talking board? Can deceased loved ones come through? My cousin's father died two days ago. Cousin struggles with a family, with a relationship. I meant besides spirit guides. Yeah. You want to answer that one?
Yeah. They will let the guides talk to her, right? I mean, we'll just let our guides talk to her. You know, they're going to talk to you in a way, in a language that you understand. I'll talk to you in my own language. You may miss it. You may not get what I have to say, all right? So let's let your guides answer that question, and here they go.
There are many people who would like to talk to you, not just relatives who have crossed over. Many others may find you fascinating and are hanging around because they feel good when they're around you. Of course, you can always talk to us and ask us anything. We are your main protectors and mentors. We have specialists that we bring in if you ask a question we need help on. But most often, it's us because of our proximity to you all the time.
They're your main guides. The ones that are talking to you right now are the ones that are with you all the time. The ones that you mapped this life out with before you got here. That's who was just talking to you. All right.
And your guides could talk to other people. Like my guides could talk to, like the time the guy in Texas called you up.
Right. Ray, do we have anything else? Let's take a look.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
So
I think that was a fascinating story. For those who haven't read Guided, one time Linda got a phone call from Texas. You tell the story.
Well, what happened, it was 1990, was it 90 or 1989? Ask the Universal Channel. This is its 30-year anniversary. So I left California the same year that Ask the Universal Channel was finished and manufactured. Okay. That's what I left with. And they told me that my guides came to me and asked me to create this because they needed a way to reach humanity on a higher level. They needed a way to reach them where they were not filled up with fear and caution. All right. So this is the only time they ever asked me to do anything for them. So I did. And it was, they told me that in December of 1988. And this was completely designed and manufactured by August of 1989. And what was I going to say about that?
You have a special guide.
Oh, there's a guy who bought this. I had it for sale in different publications at that time. We didn't have the internet yet, right? And he bought one in Texas, and he called me up on the phone, and he asked me if it's okay if he speaks with my guide over the talking board. And I said, yeah. And he said, because I've been speaking with your guide, and your guide asked me to call you. And I said, okay. I said, what's my guide's name? Spell it out. And he did. And it's a very unusual name, very unusual. And he spelled it out. And I said, yep, that's my guide. And that I know this guy's for real. And I said, absolutely. You can always talk. It's my, I don't own my guide. Okay. My guide has lots of people they help vibrate to, that they, you know, that they can connect with, that they can reach. You happen to be one of them. And I thought that was interesting that my guide asked him to call me because they wanted, my guides wanted me to see how this worked. They wanted me to understand it better. They wanted me to know that this was for real. And so that's what happened at that time. He was amazed. I was amazed. It was awesome, you know.
That is an amazing story.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah. I never met the guy, and he never called me again. He was just happy with my guide, which was now his guide too. You know?
I had 2 jobs or more.
Oh, plenty of jobs. So, Ray, do we have anybody else that has a question before we?
Let's see here. Lori says that his mother who's now deceased, had pushed him away, and he feels immense pain, grief, and bitterness. He also had a lot of bad feelings towards others. He carried a lot of pain before he died.
Yeah, yeah.
People are cruel.
Well, they don't know. What's happening is Lori, and it happens all the time in this world, is we're too quick to judge. You know, we're too quick to take it personally. We're too quick to take the blame. We're too quick to go into that emotional energy that isn't true. Many times it's not true. And your guides will get you straightened out. They will. They are the truth. They are truth and love. And they will get you moving in the right direction, guiding you along, and get you to understand. I call this the best personal development tool I've ever used. It's absolutely the best. You can sit here and have a conversation with your guides.
You can do it by yourself. You can use a spiller. You can use a pendulum.
Yeah.
You can use the online version of this and have it on your phone with a pendulum.
Yeah.
Always have it with you.
So what we're going to do, we're going to be back next week, Wednesday, and send your questions to me. Get the journal, you know. You can also get this on my website for free, but it's the small 20-page version of the journal. This is almost 200 pages. It's the full-blown version of the journal. Go to Amazon, look for it, My Guided Journey, Linda Deir.
Plus you get the MP3s, which are a $6 value.
And you get the free refill pages for the journal writing in part 3.
Right.
Okay, and you get those for free off my website after you get this journal. So, and then you can come in and you can ask me questions that you're having issues with in part 2, 18 chapters, where you got stuck. Or just bring your questions in. You don't have to even worry about this. And I will identify the chapter that you need to work on right now.
Right.
To start pulling out of it, you know?
Because this is your story.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to write a book. Well, the best book you can write is your own story.
Right.
And this even says, what, right up in the front? I think it's in it. Right here.
Just take that off the book.
My legacy too. This is a story to your family when you're gone.
Yeah, when you figure out.
Your family may not ever have discovered who you were.
That's right. And if you can be the example to them, to show them how you worked through whatever those dysfunctions were, or your dilemmas were, or your issues were, or where your life went sideways, they can understand you. Even you don't have to die to give it to them. You work through the journal, and you could give it to one of your kids and say, you know, I did my best, but it was far from my best. I mean, now that I see where I got off track, okay? But read this so you don't do this. So you don't have to take the bumps and scrapes in your life that I had to take, you know?
Right.
So let's let the guides close this session. We're going to have them do a closing message to you guys that all showed up tonight, all right?
And those who weren't able to make it, we'll have the replay up tomorrow.
Right, okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about join us next Wednesday right here on Facebook Live at 6 p.m. Pacific time on my Facebook page. Linda Deir, author, right here, as your spirit guides and I work you through the healing process of where you have hangups, okay? So send your questions to Linda at lindadeir.com. And we're going to close the session with these lovely spirit guides and angels. And here they go.
Take notice of how many times each day that someone gives you their opinion. When they do this, they are looking for approval. They want somebody to agree with them, think like they do, or not. Many times they are looking for an argument. They want to know where you stand. That's the problem with opinions. They cause polarity. It is why this is a us against them world. It's not going to get better until people stop taking things personally, stop agreeing or disagreeing with others. But when you can become the observer and not agree or disagree with anyone who gives you their opinion, can you diffuse any and all negative situations? You are not going through life looking for opinions. You are looking for answers.
Solutions.
Yeah, solutions.
Okay. And that's one thing on the top of my blog page. It says, when you ask somebody else for advice, they give you their opinion. When you ask your guides, they give you a solution. Just like this. They don't have judgment. They don't do that. That's not what they do. They're clear. They tell the truth. They tell it with love, okay? With connection. They're connected. You're connected to your guides when your heart opens. You're connected, all right?
Most people who give you advice or their opinion have no frame of reference for that opinion. You know?
They're not, yeah, I
They're not professional advice givers.
And even if they are, even if they are, they don't know. In the world that we live in, whoever runs the show, they're 100 paces in front of us. You think you've got a strategy, a way to do something.
A way to get ahead.
Yeah, and you know what? They've got you so figured out. It's like, you just have to rise above all this stuff, you guys, and then life will start making sense. Make the connection to your guides. Get back, put yourself back together again. Be in one piece. See the whole thing, not just part of it, not just from this world, but see it from a connected perspective as well. All right. So send me those questions, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
All right.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Be kind to each other.